Welcome everyone, welcome back to the show. This is Danny Haiphong, and I am reporting to you from Zhejiang Province, China. I'm staying at a party school and I have met a good friend now. He is Ali Al-Hassam. He is an Iraqi communist based in London, but with deep relationships to the region, to his country. So Ali, it's really great to be with you.
Great to be with you, Danny. And lovely to be on your channel.
Great. So we are in China for a delegation. We were here for about 10 days. We were just in Beijing. Now we are in Zhejiang, and then we're going to finish off our trip in Jilin on the DPRK border. Just going to show you quickly. I'm going to get Ali out of the camera for a second, but here is where we are. We are actually staying at a school dedicated to teaching new party members how to serve the Chinese people. And so it's been a humbling experience. So I've been away from the channel, and there's been huge historic developments in the region that you are from, Ali. This first, of course, there's Israel's genocide in Gaza, but that has ignited, or at least accelerated, regional and global catastrophic war. And we are seeing now Iran having stepped up. They have just in the last week launched one of the most historic attacks or retaliations to an attack that we've seen in this region. I believe Iran fired hundreds of drones, cruise missiles. There's reports of hypersonic missiles, although I think those may have been dispelled. But Israel's Nevatim base has been hit. The Iron Dome was penetrated. And this has caused panic among the establishments in Washington. Israel initially said they were going to immediately respond. They have now, I believe the United States, the Biden administration has told them not to respond, and there's a possible trade-off with Israel getting the okay from the United States to go into Rafah. And as you know, prominent Israeli officials have said, and people like Nikki Haley, finish the Palestinians. So the Iran-Israel situation has really escalated in recent days and weeks. What's your reaction and your experience perhaps can inform and help inform our listeners about what's going on here in this region, what's happening?
Well, the essence of it actually is the failure of the last colonial project by Western powers. A colonial project that started 200 years ago, even before Zionism was created. The colonial powers in France and Britain thought that they should create something that divides the Arab world and create the dominance, and then the ball was moved to U.S. imperialism. And really is the failure of it. What they have done is that they've created a racist entities based on apartheid, based on the fact that some people are superior than others. And this is exploding. It's imploding from within. Exploding. It is falling to its own contradictions. And the reason that this last colonial project has failed or is failing is because the Palestinian people who were the victims of it have simply said no. We are going to resist. We are going to stay in our country, and we are not going to leave, and we are going to fight. And Israel actually doesn't know what to do with it. It wants to kill 6 million Palestinian people in the West Bank and Israel proper and Gaza, but it can't. So it's killing as much as it can. But really what the West has created, what the US has created, is a monster. Is actually a fascist monster. And you can see it with the genocide in Gaza. And this is not going to win. What's happening now is after the 7th of October event, we've started a new war. Where will this war end? We don't know. At the core of it is the Palestinian issue, but it's expanding to Iran and other things in the region. And in my and my colleagues' estimates from Palestinians and so on, my wife is Palestinian, comes from Gaza. The situation, we analyze it 24 hours a day, every day, is we are saying, what's next? All what we know that it is a war that could either end in the Palestinian people being exterminated or in this apartheid state get dismantled. And you know, a lot of progressive Israelis people also say, look, our entity is finished. We have a monster is going to be very repressive, but actually the Israeli project as a racist entity is finished. It's in its last few years, and so we are going. So we see a continuation of the war, but we don't think that Israel will win. That's really the summary of it.
Yeah, and I think your assessment is backed up, especially with, and it's not just Iran. I mean, Iran's retaliation, its rightful response. A lot of people, I think, are misled in the Western media about this attack. They're told that this is, unprecedented, that this is an act of aggression. But the fact of the matter is that Iran was attacked first. Iran had their embassy bombed in Syria by Israel, and that is what precipitated Iran to go with this missile strike, which was unprecedented. But the region, you said it, Ali, the region is and has been really coming, especially the axis of resistance, what it is called.
Yeah.
You have Hezbollah fighting Israel to the so-called north of Israel, or the south of Lebanon. You have Yemen, you have Ansar Allah firing missiles and drones all the way across to Israel, hitting their ports. You have the resistance in Iraq as well, doing the same Katib Hezbollah.
Right.
Could you talk about this resistance, and maybe you could root it in both your experience in the region as well as, you know, what your colleagues, comrades, and those that you are in contact with, what their assessment of it is?
Well, the resistance is really, the camp of resistance, by the way, coordinate very closely. And they work together very closely. And that extends across Yemen, where, the Yemenis have actually, over the last 6 years, have defeated all US, British, and Saudi attempts to subjugate them. And they have came up victorious, much stronger.
Wow.
They just said a week ago, we are ready to have 400,000 fighters march to support Gaza.
Yeah.
So you have in Iraq, you have what we call it Al-Hajj al-Sha'bi, which is the popular resistance, which was formed to defeat ISIS. And the popular resistance, they have 300,000 fighters who said, we are ready also to go and support Palestine. And we got Iran, who over 25 years actually have managed to become a strong industrial military power and thwarted all the US sanctions. So Iran came out of the sanction very strongly with strategic alliances with China and Russia. You have Yemen, you have Iraq, you have in Lebanon, Hezbollah, everybody knows how strong they are. So Israel actually is in a very weak position, plus the Palestinian people who are fighting. Now, this is the camp of resistance. And all these forces, not forgetting Syria, by the way.
Syria, yes, we can't forget Syria.
And Syria is very interesting because right on the Golan Heights, there are a very large number of contingents of resistance fighters who are ready to join the war. This is not a secret. Israel knows that. That's why they bomb Syria every week, because they want to do it, and that's why they've been, attacking Iran. I mean, this last attack on Iran, on the Iranian consulate, is not the last one. They've been assassinating Iranian scientists right inside Iran for the last few years. So Iran been really very patient because Iran doesn't want a war. I mean, always, as we know, the people who wage wars, U.S. imperialism and Israel, they've been waging wars.
Yeah.
The people of the area haven't been waging wars. They want peace. So Iran been trying to be patient, but of course that cannot continue. And that's why Iran retaliated, and they were very successful. And it's been a strategic defeat for Israel. And Israel in a fix now. They don't know what to do. They will try the same old thing. They will try to attack. They will try to assassinate. They will try to kill.
Right.
But actually, strategically, they are losing. So we are witnessing quite a strategic shift in the area.
Yeah.
But how it will develop, we don't know exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be protracted over a period, actually. We don't think it will finish next week or the week after or next month or
Right.
after. We think it's a war that started.
Right. Talk about your impressions of the United States. I mean, Ali, you hail from Iraq, and Iraq has a long history with the United States and, of course, with Israel. The United States right now has been in a very, I think, historically vulnerable position where we know its economic power, we know its overall, whether it's politically or economically, that the U.S. is in decline. But we've also seen, just when it comes to this region, where the United States has for so long presented itself as the dominant force, as the one that calls the shots, has been over and over and over again capitulating to Israel, despite the impact that Israel's assault, its genocide in Gaza is having on the United States, and in particular the Biden administration. And then you also have the United States attempting to control the situation, or at least rhetorically attempting to control the situation, yet we have gotten to this point, a historic point, where Iran felt compelled, it really had to establish that deterrence again, because Israel had crossed a line. So talk about the role of the United States here. How do you see the United States' position in this region, and how do you see this playing out over the course of this protracted period you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that the U.S. In the last 40 years, 50 years, always supported Israel. But the U.S. presidents in the past, like the Bush, the father, and so on, were able to exert pressure on Israel when they wanted to.
Yep.
So we are very puzzled, and lots of observers are puzzled by Biden's weak position towards Netanyahu. And they can't understand it, because it is really humiliating to Biden and the U.S. administration.
Right.
As well. And there are two explanations that we came up with. We don't know whether it's 100% right or not. One of them is that there is the factor of the neocons in control of U.S. foreign policy. Mm-hmm. And the neocons, they are doing one blunder after another. So the first blunder is the Ukrainian one, which is failing, and Newland resigned because of it and so on. That's one. And the other blunder is in actually encouraging Israel to in the war in Gaza. So a lot of people knew that the Israelis' plan to destroy Gaza is not a new one. Hamas precipitated it by attacking on the 7th, but actually Israel was planning for it anyway, whether Hamas have attacked or not. And American administration, the Biden administration, the neocons are colluding with and driving Israel. So we don't believe that's a question of there is the right wing of Netanyahu doing it and the U.S. saying, no, don't, please
Right.
don't, and don't.
Right.
I think it is the same policy, and they work very, very closely indeed. Mm-hmm. So why are they doing it? So one is the Newcom policy, and the other, we think that the military-industrial complex in the U.S. is actually driving a lot of this adventurous policy, which is not in the interest of the common people in the U.S. Mm-hmm. It's not in the interest of the U.S. as a power. Actually, it's the interest of the military-industrial complex, and they're making lots of good money from it.
Yeah.
The U.S. is borrowing money. I mean, all these aids to Ukraine and to Israel is on borrowed money, with that U.S. taxpayer pays for it. But who benefit from is the military-industrial complex. So we think these are the drivers, which is very short-term, very dangerous toward peace, that's driving both the Ukraine policy and the policy of supporting Israel.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Ukraine policy, the United States and NATO, what they're doing in Ukraine to wage a war on Russia, and the impact of that. I remember, Ali, when the special military operation kicked off, there were murals coming out of Baghdad with Putin's face on it. There was almost a congratulatory, celebratory tone, not just in West Asia and the Middle East, but really all around the world,
Yeah.
I'm curious. Could you talk about not just the Ukraine policy, but the connections? You made that connection between Israel and Ukraine, but also this changing world that we are living in. The world is rapidly changing. We're in China right now, and we know that a lot of this has to do with China, not just Russia. And so I'm wondering your impression coming from this region and being very close to both people in the diaspora, the various struggles. Just talk about
if you go
this
to
changing world.
you go to the Middle East, walk the streets and talk to ordinary people,
Right.
everywhere in Iraq or elsewhere. But I know Iraq very well, but I know it elsewhere as well. They will all support Russia. They will all know it's a war that that really is unjust. It's a conspiracy against Russia, and you will find that all are extremely supportive to China. I'm very passionate about the need for establishing a relationship with China because, take the Iraq for example. U.S. occupied it 2003. They haven't laid one single brick in Iraq from 2003 until now. They haven't built the electricity power grid, which they destroyed in 1990 in the first bombardment, then again in the second bombardment 2003. It was destroyed by American planes, but they haven't, even when they were in power in Iraq, even when they controlled Iraq directly from 2003 to 2011, they haven't managed to establish the electricity grid. So the Iraqi people, they see what America has done to their country. They know what Russia have worked with Iraq before very well, and China, and they support. And there's something very funny, really. America tried one, I think it's 2017. One color revolution to unseat a prime minister that was sympathetic to China, Adil Abdul Hadi. And what they've done, they use the TikToks, the little TikToks. They pay them lots of money to drive demonstrators around and so on.
Right.
When the Ukrainian conflict started, special military operations, all the TikToks in Baghdad, without anybody telling them, they had Putin pictures on their TikToks. So you find the TikToks all over Baghdad with Putin's picture, the same TikToks that the American tried to buy with a few dollars before. So it's quite a funny thing, actually.
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting how the United States, you mentioned earlier with Israel, that it's not as simple as, okay, Netanyahu is, in a power struggle with the Biden administration. That surely may exist, but there's so much coordination going on. Even recent reports have said that the Biden administration is making a trade-off or attempting to, saying Rafah will not cost as much politically to the United States. Israel moving into Rafah and finishing the job on the Palestinians won't cost as much as a broader war with Iran. But at the same time, it seems like no matter what the United States does, its position gets weaker. There have been reports, CNN has been reporting on a poll that people in the middle, young people in the Middle East, in West Asia, in places like Iraq, are viewing Russia and China more favorably. So what explains this development? I mean, it's obvious that the United States' policy in the region has been so destructive, but then what compels then Russia and especially China, because since we're here, what compels people to look toward China and Russia as alternatives?
Well, through direct experience. I mean, they see that the genocide in Gaza is done by American bombs, which are shipped on a daily basis. There is a chain of airplanes coming to Israel on a daily basis with these lethal bombs that's killing thousands and thousands of people every week. So they see that. And on the economic level, which is also crucial, they see that wherever America is going, whether in Syria, whether in Iraq, is causing economic mayhem, economic blockades, so many problems, the destruction of the state infrastructure, and then and in this world they see what China is doing in the world. all these, for example, the Road and Belt Initiative is extremely popular in Iraq. It's quite a unique thing. It's on the popular seesaw. Even prime ministers who are under U.S. pressure, and U.S. has a hegemony in Iraq, they are compelled to actually make deals with Chinese companies, proclaim their support to the Road and Belt, even when they are under intense American pressure. So it is the reality on the ground, and you see what China is doing in the world, and you see what America is doing in the world. America, all what's doing is bringing war.
Yeah.
And when they go to country, they say, well, can we sell you some weapons? They don't say, can we build the road for you? They can, well, we can give you a very nice weapon that can kill people. Right. And it's very clear, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it does become that simple. It's not... I think that sometimes viewers who follow geopolitics, who follow world developments, there's a lot of confusion that's spread by the mainstream Western media. There's a lot of demonization that goes on about Russia, about China. And there's a lot of, I believe, just absolute propaganda, misinformation spread about what is emerging to be, I mean, we talked about the axis of resistance in West Asia, but there really is a global axis of resistance developing in a multipolar world, in a world that is led by countries that, and I think this is underemphasized, and maybe we can get your final reactions to this, this move toward multipolarity, in my opinion, is less about, well, are there multiple different countries with different systems helping to balance power and divide up kind of power in the world so that there isn't one country dominating all. I believe that this multipolar world is defined by a kind of renewed energy toward self-determination, toward countries that have not had sovereignty, have not had the ability to determine their own destiny as outlined in the UN Charter, doing so, attempting to assert that, and doing so in a more interconnected way than really what was possible even during the so-called Cold War period. So right. Your reactions to this emerging multipolar world, which I've had some guests on this show, analyst Mark Saloti, have said, it's not a multipolar world because there are huge divides between these forces, the empire, the Western so-called civilization, Western empire, the United States leading it, and really the global South. But this interconnectivity is critical, and you just mentioned it with Iraq. So your reactions to this emerging multipolar world and what it means for what's happening in the region of West Asia and globally?
Well, the difference with the multipolar world and what it was after the ending of the Cold War, where the U.S. emerged victorious because Soviet Union collapsed and so on, is that then the U.S. was able to exert tremendous economic pressure on all the countries of the Third World.
Right.
Now, it's not the case now. Now we have the multipolar world, the BRICS countries, the power of China, and the economic power that gives the countries of the Third World a choice of that they could have dignity, they could have independence, they could have construction. Not necessarily, they don't want to fight USA necessarily. They just want peace and time for development.
Right.
And this multipolar world give them the choice of doing so. And China itself, as you know, have said, look, we are not after replacing USA as we are not a superpower. We regard ourselves as part of the developing world. What we want is really a world by which there is a development for all, and where we could face the challenges for humanity. And one interesting, I mean, we've been going to demonstrations about Gaza in London, in the US, where, take London, for example, the demonstration will have no less than 250,000 people, mostly young people, by the way. And when you see them demonstrating against the genocide in Gaza and for ceasefire and so on, actually they are demonstrating against the injustice in the world. And they are saying, look, we could have a different world by which people are not subjugated, by which we could have peace and development.
Right.
And really this is becoming a world movement. In all these demonstrations across the world, whether in the US, whether in the UK, whether in Europe, elsewhere, and it's merging probably I think merging with China's call for what's it called, shared
Community for shared future.
For
yes.
shared future. And I think this movement is going to be stronger and stronger, and that's the way forward. And the U.S. will find itself by always calling for wars will be really in a quite an isolated position. And we hope that there will be peace in the world. We hope that the U.S. will. I find it very difficult, frankly, because of the control of the industrial military complex. But we hope that in the years ahead, maybe there will be a change even in the U.S. towards less aggressive policies in the world and so on. But with Israel, I think it's a different thing. Israel, really what they have created is quite a racist society that believes that God gave them the right to subjugate other people, and I don't know how to solve it. It's going to be difficult.
Indeed. Well, Ali, let's show the people a little bit of where we are one more time. So we are at a school dedicated to training young Communist Party members to serve the people. It's a beautiful school. It's the nighttime, so it's a bit dark, but actually let's go this way, if you don't mind, Ali.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, we are doing this. I want to show just what's happening out here. So I'm just going to turn around. So here you can see, Ali. Here you see.
I'll leave you too.
That's right outside of the city. We are in beautiful Zhejiang province in China. Ali, one last goodbye.
Bye-bye.
It was really good to be with you today.
I hope we have more discussion.
Yes. Definitely we'll have to have you back on remotely when we head out of here. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/Danny Haiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.